Greetings and salutations, all you beautiful individuals. It is another episode of League Unlocked. Eric and Mark here with you guys for a little bit of a barn burner opening weekend in the LEC and the LCS, and more importantly than the meaningful 2026 matches, we got a pair of legendary classic showdowns in both NA and EU. TSM versus CLG in North America, and even with High having to sub in for TSM over Bjergsen, which seems like absolute blasphemy. You know, getting Hansard back, special, the odd one was the real star to see back, and then an actual vintage CLG lineup. Pobelter, I mean, could probably still be playing in the LCS, and we saw that from the Master Yi performance.
Oh man, this hit all the notes that you were hoping it was going to hit, and I think even more than what you had dreamed, coming off of the MSI and the experience that we had there with League Classic as that show match beforehand, and getting them to kickstart, to warm up the crowds and everything like that for the LCS LEC getting started. These were fantastic. This was exactly what you wanted, as you said, albeit without Bjergsen being involved, of course, additional reasons, but having High step in, very much so. A controversial choice as far as where you're looking back on the history.
Better than Reggie. I don't think people would have been happy if Reggie's in there.
No, so it absolutely was, I think, the best possible option that they could have alternated to. But seeing this and how it was played out, the entertainment value that comes through with this, I'm absolutely convinced, and even more so, like 1,000% here compared to the 100% I was after the MSI performance. Looking at this has to be something that you support in some type of capacity. You keep it around in whatever type of exhibition format, something, or even blow it up all the full way into quote-unquote senior a tournament tour type of thing. Look at professional golf. You have the PGA Tour. You have all, of course, the feeder leagues that lead into it to develop and everything else. But you have the senior PGA. So you can still see the legends of old continue to compete, to play the game and things like that. Why not have a version, an iteration of that for League of Legends? Because obviously, again, when you look at the current situation, some of the personalities and the attachment to them, it is lacking compared to the past when you look at the previous history, and especially in a region like the LCS. And if you can look into the past, call on the past to come help you out right now and play in these matches in the League of Legends Classic and bring back some of that old vibes and energy and attitude and character to the scene, I think that this is something that you cannot pass up on if you are Riot Games.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, call on the past. Look at who answers, both in NA and EU. These were guys you haven't even seen on camera in years. Cyanide comes out with his full Viking look and the long beard. Alex Each is there. Froggen gets to play Anivia. Reckless somehow looks the exact same as he did in 2015. I don't know how this guy does some witchcraft there, but all these iconic guys are willing to come out to these events. Number one, I'm sure they have their own nostalgia for this version of the game, but I think some of these guys would legit come out of retirement if there was some kind of circuit where you could play. The game is much more approachable from that era. I don't have to read an essay about one champion's passive ability.
Yeah, and again, it's one of these ones where having that second life, second opportunity to go back into these situations, into these metas, into these environments where you then can take a new type of aspects to it, new strategies, new approaches that you have learned throughout the course of this game, throughout the course of your career type of situation. Again, there's so many aspects to this to be played, and depending on how serious, how far you want to take it, whatever, I think that if you don't take it to any of these degrees, any of these next levels and support it and try to put it out there, you are missing out on a massive opportunity as Riot Games.
Give me mini brackets domestically and have these classic teams converge at Worlds for just a little tiny appetizer for all these matchups. Again, like it's a winning combination, and I wouldn't be surprised if next year we see an actually somewhat fleshed out mini league featuring Classic in whatever capacity it ends up being. We did have actual bangers on the Rift that were, recorded and official matches for that road show. Carmine Corp in Paris. They get the home buff yet again, yet to lose on this Paris roadshow going back to 2015, and they were at the absolute brink with G2 pushing on their base before they find this insane engage to get back, but absolutely delivering this set from Broken Blade taunting the crowd, coming out for G2, to KC getting the final laugh. And even though Caps had a pretty craps type of performance on the series, I think it's nice to see two actual Worlds caliber teams in Europe again.
This was good. This is one of those ones where I think there's an avenue where this series could have played out and you'd be disappointed or left wanting more from these two, given what you have seen from them coming off of the MSI experience and everything else. Very different, obviously. I mean, G2 to the degrees that they had, and then Carmine Corp with not even getting through that play-in stage situation. You're looking at this matchup and feeling good about what you saw from both of these two. And of course, I think the roadshow environment plays a healthy part into that, because absolutely the blue walls showed up and were a factor. They were phenomenal. And I'll go as far as saying that I don't think KC gets through this series, gets through that base defense without that type of additional hype and motivation and energy that they're feeding off of from the crowd, which is certainly something that is a factor to keep track of with Carmine Corp. It's not always going to be available to you, especially when you're playing internationally, going across in whatever type of situations. But when you have your home support, when you've got that vocal fan base being loud for you, they're finding a way to turn that into energy, into motivation, into actual results on Summoner's Rift. And I think that is a key value to have if you are a team, and to be able to do it here in this situation and to come on through early in the season on this road show is a very good start for Carmine Corp.
You can never play a playoff round here because it's way too big an advantage for KC. The atmosphere is better than most of the playoffs that we've had in the LEC the last couple of years. And we had an 80 carry duel between the two French phenoms in Hansama and Kalist in that third game especially. Kana seems to play even better when the lights are bright for KC. He had a fantastic Yone game. Obviously, these were, the two standout 2-0 squads heading to this point, and we absolutely deliver on that series. The other end of the spectrum was the 0-2 squads in MCoy and Vitality wrapping things up, and this was supposed to be a at least 3-headed, maybe 4-headed beast of EU at this roadshow, but could not have more differing levels of gameplay between the 0-2 and the 2-0 squads. And Movistar Koi, listen, they had leads, maybe could have won every series, but the theme is the same across all three sets. They have a gold lead in the mid game. They have no idea what to do with that gold lead.
Yeah, and that is going to be a troubling indication for this squad right now. And especially this was what, again, like a Carmine Corp, like a G2, you didn't have that opportunity at MSI to have anything else, but you had this time away and needed to sharpen yourselves, needed to be better heading into this next split. And where is that for Movistar Court? Because you're not seeing it, and I'm not seeing it, and nobody is seeing it out there on Summoner's Rift, because it is the same type of mistake, same confusion on as far as how to push these advantages, how to utilize these next steps within the game to find a way that we are continuing that control, continuing that pressure, and then eventually taking the base. That's not happening for Movistar Koi for a variety of reasons. And I think when you're looking at how they play and frankly not achieving it, and especially in that head-to-head against Vitality, it looked really bad.
Yeah, they have this gold lead, and then, again, against both KC, G2, and Vitality, it's just guys getting picked off, getting caught out for no reason. The team's not grouping up. They're not on the same page. So many little errors that I know it's the first week. It's going to be some rust. They haven't been at most of these international events, but this is a theme we've been talking about for too long with this Movistar Koi lineup. The Vitality side, Linsis has a pop-off Nefiri game. It felt like everybody popped off on Nefiri this weekend, and obviously the debut of Fiesta, whose play style, it just seemed like humanoid, but more extreme. He's getting caught out looking like you're inting, but then he makes a game-winning play. It's like the spectrum is even wider, which I didn't think was possible.
Which is, again, It's one thing to take in as the initial performance in this regard and how you're evaluating and everything else. I'm still going to look back on kind of the comments from Vitality talking about why they made this type of transition, why they made this move in the mid lane, and why they made it now. You're looking for a player that can peak within this one split. You're not looking for someone that's going to develop over time. They were going for, let's get that hot hit right now and find it out. I don't think that this was exactly the type of form that you wanted to see right out of the gates, but the result is more or less towards that angle. If you are Vitality, sure, things could have gone a little bit better overall through the weekend, but you take what you do in this win over Movistar Koi, and I think you can look at Fiesta individually, see a lot that you maybe want changed or tightened up or worked around with the group, but at the end of the day, the clutch factor, the game-making play type of situation, he was able to deliver for the Vitality squad.
Not going 0-3 against the top 3 in EU is enough of a tiny W for Team Vitality to chalk in for this first week of LEC action. LCS side of things, we know Inspired not hanging out for the first couple of weeks, so Armeo got the start against FlyQuest, and probably forgot this guy's even playing professionally still, but he comes in and drops an iconic Xin Zhao performance as Lion 2-0's FlyQuest, and it was definitely not the calm, controlled Lion that dominated the LCS. It was a lot more hectic and chaotic, but they just got to show off their hands a little bit more.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where you undoubtedly feel the absence of Inspired out there on Summoner's Rift and that and what he brings to that Lion team. But at the same time, things were going well enough and were still more or less Lion controlled that you did have faith that this is exactly the team that you wanted to see out on Summoner's Rift, defending and representing for the LCS. I think that this was a good, again, good first start for this Lion team to get back out here in summer, and especially when they're trying to figure out, float themselves around, improve themselves without Inspired in this period.
Yeah, and I think the Dokla and Berserker difference were huge in this set, and with Inspired being out, let's be honest, a bit of a disappointing series out of FlyQuest. The perennial MVP not being there, Griffin being this growing jungler. You wanted him to take advantage of a matchup against Armeo. He did not do that, especially in that Xin Zhao game. But we were hoping for quicker growth out of FlyQuest. But again, it's been a long time since we saw them actually on the Rift, and they're a team that we expect to level up throughout the tournament.
It's maybe I'm giving them too much of a cushion, too much of a runway here, but I'm kind of on a 2 or 3 week type of trajectory with FlyQuest at this point, waiting to see if we do get to see some of those signs of that improvement between last split and this one, where they can gear up to be that challenger, usurper to that established order at the top of the LCS. And I say established order, it's not much established outside of right now Lion and Team Liquid, and then outside of that, there's some openings for any of these LCS squads to climb up.
Absolutely, there's some opportunities, and I think Team Liquid has now moved closer to that Lion phase than anywhere else, especially this Cloud9 head-to-head when you see Quid. I know Locke is broken and everybody's getting wins, especially in solo queue on him, but Quid, now going back to MSI, has carried that momentum of looking like that MVP form. Jose Diodo just put Blabber's head on the chopping block next for Cloud9, as Tactical and Loki's season debut are absolutely dwarfed by Quid popping on them.
Which I don't think is something you could have envisioned saying, 3.5 years ago type of situation at this point, that Jose Diodo is putting Blabber on the chopping block, but that's really how big of a gap there was in that aspect. And again, a disappointment for Cloud9, despite all this talk about 7-man roster figuring things out, whatever. This is a very lame duck performance, and a lot of that is due to just being explosive from the side of Quid in the mid lane for Team Liquid. And again, I love that he's talking about, the coaching staff wanted me to lock in Locke, and I didn't think the matchup was very good, and they said, brother, he's Locke. He's busted right now. Play him. You're going to be fine. And he absolutely cleans up on the new champ.
Yeah, he was more than fine. A bit of a headache for Cloud9. And, Loki and Tactical, it's one series, 2 games, hard to go off of. Tactical looked fine. He was, playing aggressive, eating forward on the Ezreal, and didn't have any, Malphite type moments. We know the Tristana plays from him. Obviously going up his former buddy in Core JJ in that bot lane. But if Team Liquid continues to play like this, then you can at least say the LCS is a nice, good-looking 2-team region.
And if we stay outside of an enchanter support type of meta, you've got Core JJ playing these champions, the Nautilus, the Rel, and making it a nightmare down in the bottom lane for the other duo. You love to see this from Team Liquid, and yeah, I think they have put themselves up at the top of the LCS with Lion.
What's the point in playing enchanters when your bot laner is playing Akali, Sylas, Victor, Syndra, Xerath in the bot lane? We're taking League of Legends Classic a little too literally now in modern League of Legends.
Yeah, I think we're pushing the limits as far as what is viable, what is an option down in these bottom lanes, and I think it's one of these ones where getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. Yes, it's open. Yes, mages are thriving down in this opportunity and give you different angles, different attributes to your team composition, whatever. You still got to find the angle to get through these laning phases. And some of these champions in a duo situation, it just isn't the way that it's built to flow and form out. And you're seeing that in some of this experimentation, we'll call it.
And at least this is happening early. This is going to be changed before Worlds, because this is, the Chovy belt's already been nerfed, but whatever needs to come in terms of AP numbers, whatever the case may be, I'd prefer you just buff, the marksman a little bit. That's always more fun. But there's going to be changes implemented for Worlds, because I don't think Riot wants this to be the meta heading to the World Championship.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be one of those situations. I think a lot of people, myself included, and you, would love to see the other angle. That, well, if this is strong, just bring everything else up. Bring something else to match it up in power, as opposed to, well, this peg is sticking out compared to all the other ones. Let's hammer it right back into place with a big old nerf situation. So I think, yes, the way I would like this to be handled or controlled is that type of angle. But I think right now, knowing the history of how they handle these type of things, waiting on that big old hammer swing to knock the board back into place.
It's like rock, paper, scissors. Okay, these AP carries are too strong. We gotta buff assassins. Go in the mid lane to blow them up immediately. There's maybe it's more than just the marksman, but something is definitely going to change over the next couple of weeks. What's not changing is the hierarchy of the LPL, and it hasn't been a problem not having their starting top laner. Wenbo comes in, we get the 2-0 versus 2-0 head-to-head against anyone's legend, and Wenbo was fine. He played a little bit more weak side, as you would come to expect, but really the BLG story continues to be Knight, even in losses, playing like an absolute mad lad, and the bot lane has been incredible, even since MSI, really. You can talk about the awesome dude meta being great for Viper, but he has firmly looked like that HLE, EDG level Viper over the last now 6 to 8 weeks.
It's more than just the meta in the situation in that bottom lane, which we did talk about throughout MSI and saying, you know what, frankly, I haven't seen it from anybody else to say that Viper isn't the best option when the meta is like this, and he can take advantage of some of these additional picks and how he is able to pilot and utilize it throughout all stages of the laning phase, throughout these mega team fights later on. He has a better handle on it than any other ADC than I have been able to see throughout the global scene. And you add on top of it that, yes, the raw gameplay, the actual, hands and form that he is in right now, on top of that familiarity with those champion bases, is at a peak right now for Viper. And I think that is something that, of course, has pushed BLG into this ultra tier where you're having Knight perform the way that he does. You're getting, performances from Jun that are in that type of tier and category. And when you look at now the top side, and yes, you have Bin, and Bin is what he is on the international stage most of the time, there's a different option here, and it's Wenbo. And he did more than okay in this series today, especially against a squad like anyone's legend. I think struggled in the carry matchup that he had, hits Cassante duty, and it is game over. It is business as usual for BLG.
Yeah, I mean, when they're winning, we don't still know the full extent of what this bin situation is, if it's just fully avoiding burnout, taking some time off, if there's a little bit more drama, like some of the rumors are. But if BLG is winning, there's not much leverage in the way of bin, and I know internationally success is what BLG is going to be looking for, and bin still probably gives you that, but going to be fascinating to see how things end up playing out. The one thing going for bin is, of course, he needs to be the kryptonite, the option against somebody who came back this split, the GOAT, the Shy for IG, making their debut over the weekend down in the basement that is the Nirvana group, but they get the win against Weibo. It's going to be a long journey, but Mako, Rookie, the Shy, the boys are all back. It just feels inevitable that this IG is going to be going on a 4th seed to Worlds kind of run.
Man, what a story it would be if they're able to make this one. And yes, of course, a lot of people waiting on that final destination situation of looking for Worlds type of thing. I'm saying enjoy the ride right now, because this type of journey through, again, the bottom depths of the Nirvana group and they're going to be climbing their way up if they continue, again, putting on the pressure, building up this win streak and looking good. This is an IG with, again, the players, the story that you've listed out are absolutely must-watch television in the LPL.
Yeah, and, now they've got a 2-headed AD carry in Chauchi, and awesome to see who's going to be the starter there, but really the rest of that core is obviously fully veteran lineup to the top, and I'm ready for IG to completely steamroll this Nirvana group, and then, probably maybe flounder in some of these playoffs. But either way, the Shy continues to be like a viewership absolute machine in the same conversation as guys like Uzi and Finker.
And it's one of those ones where, again, this roster right here, you could very much see in the next year, 2, 3 years, maybe running around on the League of Legends Classic circuit type of situation. They're absolutely in there. And you can't tell me a guy like the Shy would not be an absolute monster going back in time to some of these metas, some of these situations, and the way they're able to play. I think that would be a fun one. But yeah, right now, the way that they are running this veteran lineup, again, very veteran heavy lineup, is going to be the story to watch throughout this Nirvana group.
And in a year where the LPL needs reasons for people to tune in, IG is maybe reason number 1 right now to watch that league. But that is it today for League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you, Stummers. Thanks for hanging out as always. We'll catch you on that flippity flip.